Hello and welcome to Talk to Downtown. My name is Courtney Wood. I'm the Economic Development Director for the Downtown Stockton Alliance, the 501c6 nonprofit property-based business improvement district serving downtown Stockton. This series is intended to connect our business owners, property owners, visitors, and residents with the organizations, people, and resources which impact our community. Today we have special guest, Knodt. He's the facilitator of the Downtown Comeback Club of Stockton. So I'm really excited to talk to Knodt today. We'll start out with having Knodt share a little bit about his background, how he came to be the facilitator for the DCC. Then I'll go through a list of questions I've outlined for him, and at the end, we'll open it up for viewer questions. So if you do have a question, please type it in as a comment, and we will get to it towards the end of the live. With that, welcome, Knodt. Thanks for being our guest today. Please tell us all about yourself and how you came to facilitate the Downtown Comeback Club.
Okay, thrilled to be here. As far as the background and being an old person with lots of experience, I'll keep this very brief. First of all, I'm mostly a lifelong resident of this area. I originally grew up in French Camp. I'm one of the few people who can say they're from French Camp. And then I lived in Manteca growing up as a kid, went to Chico State. And then since I left Chico State and since I finished a transportation career, I worked in the bus business, all four phases. First, long distance. Then I was chief dispatcher for Amador Stage Line Sacramento, which still operates charters from Stockton and athletic trips. And then I was also a broadcaster with KHSL TV in Chico. And I became a school teacher at one time when the transportation jobs didn't fully work out. At one time, I did manage the bus terminals for Trailways Bus Company, a long distance company, which used to be a competitor to Greyhound, when there was a lot more bus riders than there are today. I used to manage the terminals in downtown San Francisco and Oakland, and I was once a director of operations for part of a four-state area based out of Las Vegas. So that was my transportation. But then I also did charters, I mentioned, in Sacramento, and then I was director of planning for San Joaquin RTD here in Stockton, designing routes and schedules and analyzing ridership for 17 years. And then I came out of retirement for 1 year, was director of transportation for Stockton Unified. And when you see the electric buses running around with the little white air conditioning units on top, I helped save some grants 3 years ago to order those buses. And those are the first air-conditioned school buses, I believe, in San Joaquin County, but definitely in Stockton. So there's my base, and then I'm retired now officially. As far as the Comeback Club goes, while I was still teaching, I taught broadcasting at Edison High School. That's another story for another day. But when I was teaching broadcasting at Edison High School, somewhere in the summer of 1997, I stumbled into a place called Armando's, which was a fairly upscale downtown Mexican-American restaurant in what was then known as the Marketplace, which used to be the Greenhouse, which is now the Courthouse Plaza building, where the Families by Choice is based. And Families by Choice just changed their name, and I forget the current name now.
Yeah, Main Street. Yeah.
Yes. And I stumbled in this meeting, and it was very intriguing. And then I found out it was about downtown. I am an urbanist at heart. I love the countryside. I will fight to death to defend farmland and have buffer zones like between Lodi and Stockton and all that. But I prefer to live in cities. I've lived in downtown San Francisco. I've lived in Las Vegas. I've lived in Hollywood. And I've lived in Sacramento. So anyway, this was a very fascinating subject. I've been a hardcore advocate for the revitalization of downtowns all throughout California, the United States, for about 40 years now. So this was a very interesting thing. I found out these people meet every Thursday morning for breakfast between 7:30 and 8:30. Then it was Armando's. That was in approximately July. That was in August of 1997. I think I was headed to Edison High School, but it was before the school days had started. Back then, school started in late August, early September. So for a couple of years, I couldn't attend regularly. I had a first period prep at Edison, which was done so I could set up my broadcast equipment and everything when I was teaching broadcasting and had my studios. And once in a great while, I'd sneak into a meeting and then spend half the meeting there and then rush off to Edison before my second period class would start. I can say that now that I've been away from SUSD for about But no, I was never not doing my job at Edison. But anyway, as soon as I left Edison High School, which happened in October of 2002, and went to work for San Joaquin RTD as a senior route planner, then I started attending the meetings regularly. And for about 10 years, we had other people that facilitated or coordinated the meetings. Now, what they did then was type up an agenda. And back then, the Stockton Record had it varied from local to money page and various other things. But they used to list our meetings in the Stockton Record, and if we had a guest, they listed that. Well, anyway, that kind of went away. But in about February of 2007, we had lost two of our main facilitators. I mean, an old retired, who I'm not going to name, was kind of running the meetings, but we kind of drifted off into talking about vacations in Europe and people staying. And I thought, that's not what the Downtown Stockton Club. We are here to advocate for the revitalization of Downtown Stockton and talk about current important topic issues. So next week I showed up with a yellow legal pad, what I called talking notes. And I sort of took over the meeting and no one objected. So I came with meeting notes again. Then I photocopied the meeting notes and handed them out to people. And I thought, well, that looks kind of tacky. So then I typed up a one-page agenda. And then I got the bright idea, maybe 2009 or something, to start emailing the agenda to a handful of people, which I think originally was a list of 12 or 16. And then I just kept growing the list. Every time I go to a lot of events. Every time I go to an event, you've seen it yourself, I talk to people, I hand out a card, and I talk about this, among other things, the Downtown Stockton Comeback Club. And so anyway, eventually, as people give me their cards, I add them to my list. Most people are happy to get it. If they do object, I will remove their email from the list. But as of today, in fact, I will be sending out the weekly, I send out a weekly email. The agenda goes out on Wednesday, usually around 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Today, it'll probably be closer to shortly after this show's over. But as of today, the email list I send out is to 446 people. That includes about 80 to 100 people that are not in Stockton directly, but have interest in the club and family members of mine and so forth. But about 350, I'd say more like 380 Stocktonians get this email every Wednesday. I average about 10 to 15 comments every time I send out the agenda about people who got it and comment on something. And then I hear from people, and people such as you, I think, are kind of familiar with us through the email.
Yes.
We call it our DCC Thursday morning weekly breakfast meeting email agenda. That's what we call the email.
And it is stocked with information, let me tell you. It is awesome. So if someone wants to get on your email list, how can they do that?
All they would have to do is contact me. Of course, we'll give everyone the contact information. The last thing I should have mentioned, about 7 or 8 years after I started doing the email, it dawned on me one day, maybe it's 10 years later. This is probably around 2016, 2017. I think it happened when I retired from RTD in 2019. I got the bright idea I should add attachments to it. Now, if you look at the email, it's 2 pages of information. And much of that information is itemized, and then it's itemized says see flyer or see note or something. And now I've limited it to about 8 or 9 attachments per email. I was up to 12 or 14, but then people's emails started rejecting it because I guess it was too much information, and some people's emails will only accept an email of a certain size. So it's a complete email of 2 pages of information with attachments.
Yeah, and I highly recommend that you email Nate, ask to get added to that list because it has a lot of great information about things going on in downtown Stockton and also throughout the city. You include events throughout, charity events, fundraisers. So it's a really, really cool thing. And thanks for giving us insight into how you got involved with the Downtown Comeback Club. Can you tell us about the club itself, the origin of it, who started it and what was their mission?
Yes, July of 1995, Stockton's first great downtown developer in an era when downtown Stockton was in great decline. A gentleman named Dan Court. The Court Tower is named after him in downtown Stockton at the corner of, I want to say, Sutter and Main Street. And that's a former Bank of America and American Savings building. He realized that there needed to be something to unify and connect people about the urgency of revitalizing or bringing back downtown Stockton. So Dan Court established it. Now, at that time, in the big court tower. On the ground floor was a really upscale gymnasium before gyms were as popular as they are today, called the Downtown Athletic Club. So he met with some people there, and they came up with the idea of the Downtown Stockton, the Stockton Downtown Comeback. That's how I should say it. Stockton Downtown Comeback Club, leaving DCC at the end. And not to confuse us with DSA, by the way.
Exactly.
But anyway, he and because nothing like that had yet existed, and there was no Downtown Stockton Alliance yet, because it was the first thing, because he was well known, he was a big time person, had some really good juice in the city downtown. For several years, it drew an average of about 25 to 30 per meeting, and they even had subcommittees. It was almost an unofficial early version of the Downtown Stockton Alliance in how it was structured. They had a finance committee, they had a volunteer committee, they had activities committee, and we used to put on events. For example, in the earliest days of the Fox Theater, when it was still the Fox Theater, actually, before the renovation, when they were first starting to do live shows there, sometimes the DCC, I almost said DSA there, sometimes the DCC would actually, using what was then the Greenhouse or Marketplace building, which is now the Courthouse Plaza, at the corner of Main Street and San Joaquin, sometimes would actually set up food or entertainment to have before and after a Bob Hope or Fox event, including sometimes a no-host bar and a deli. And they would invite people in before and after. Now, at that time, the Yosemite Club on the 7th and 8th floor of the historic Bank of Stockton building, also at the corner of San Joaquin and Main, was still active. And sometimes the Downtown Comeback Club would coordinate with the Yosemite Club to put on events before and after. It's a shame right now there isn't anything really coordinated with Fox Theater, Bob Hope Theater events. That's one of our biggest issues, Comeback Club, actually. But anyway, because unfortunately the Fox Theater is kind of an oasis in the desert right now in downtown. It's like a donut. The Bob Hope is in the middle, and then the donut around it. Things are mostly empty or closed at night when there's things going on there. But anyway, so that was what the Comeback Club, that's how I was involved. That's what it originally did. Then we kind of were a victim of our own success. I say victim because and I know it's a question later on, our typical turnout is about 8 to 16 people, but we're happy with that. You got to remember, we're every week. We're like 50 weeks out of the year. And we're talking about people giving up their free time at breakfast when they got to get kids to school and go to work and go to classes and every other thing. But anyway, what happened was we had some really good active, I call them associates. There is no membership. We'll talk about the structure here in a moment because it's a very volunteer thing. Mm-hmm. But we had two people, particularly Gladys Aikita and a guy named Tim Vile, who until fairly recently did travel logs at the Stockton Record. They got the idea that there should be a downtown business improvement district or downtown alliance. And the DCC and these people helped create the Downtown Stockton Alliance, which I believe was formulated, we talked about this, I think 1995.
I believe 1996 incorporated, and then operations began 1998. So
that's where I got confused about my dates.
There you go.
and then we, members of the Downtown Comeback Club or associates, made public comments at City Council in favor of it. And we were pretty well known at that time because we were a larger group then. And then many of us went back after the first 5 years to strongly advocate for the continuance of the Downtown Stockton Alliance. And you may not know this, and I forgot to tell you this. I was a board member of the DSA for many years. I represented RTD because RTD is a downtown property owner. And as property owners who actually qualify to be board members of the DSA. So I have served on the DSA board. I think it was on
excellent.
6 years, 20. I was on it from I think 2012 to 2016, 2018 or something like that.
It's so interesting to see the merger between the Comeback Club and the origins of the DSA. And right now we're actually coming up on another recertification. This year we're working on it. So, it's coming around again. So it's really interesting to hear that you've supported it in the past.
I may need to show up at another city council meeting soon.
Please do. Please do. So you talked about the origins of the Comeback Club, when it was started. And can you tell us a little bit more, what was their goal? What was their outcome? What did they want to accomplish?
We've had a very simple goal, and that's to advocate for the rejuvenation, revitalization, and the healthy existence of a strong urban central business district, downtown Stockton. In fact, we have a very short mission statement, which I can read to you.
Sure.
And there's our famous, you can't really see it too well on the computer. We have a steamboat in here, and it's a steamboat logo. It shows a steamboat coming through a big ship's steering wheel, which is not the correct term, by the way. But this is our mission statement. The Downtown Comeback Club of Stockton, open to all, is committed to the ongoing revitalization of downtown Stockton. It is our purpose to advocate, network, facilitate, promote a vision, and gather and disseminate information. There we are.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome mission. And so you talked about in the past, there used to be, subcommittees. Nowadays, can you tell us what are the activities of the Comeback Club?
We are primarily a volunteer breakfast club at this time. We don't have too many coordinated activities because our average attendance is 8 to 16. We average most of the time about 12. On an off week with vacations or people being ill or having conflicts, we can drop down to 9 or 8. When we have a guest speaker and we get it publicized, we go from 15 to 20. But what we primarily do is network people together.
Yeah.
Well, we don't do big things like we used to, like cleanups. We used to do cleanups of downtown Stockton. In fact, the resource of South Stockton, I'm trying to remember the exact name of the Reinvent South Stockton Coalition, does cleanups now, and they'll pick up tons of things. We did that at one time. We did once or twice a year. Most of the recycling trash cans you see in downtown Stockton, which are now getting kind of old and dated, were originally organized, and that concept was done through the Downtown Comeback Club. Later, those garbage cans were purchased by RTD, and RTD then ran into, I think, some kind of funding or technical problem with installing them. And then RTD actually turned them over, I think, to the DSA. I believe the green recycling trash cans throughout downtown Stockton were installed by the DSA, and I think you guys maintain them. If I'm not mistaken, I say you guys, the DSA maintains them, I believe. But anyway, So we did cleanups. We one time we did a thing where we did beautification by hanging out plants, but that was difficult to maintain. And now I believe the DSA has plants and vegetation. So a lot of the ideas and things you're doing now, we did. But to answer your question about what we currently do, people who come, I say we have 8 to 16 that show up. It's not the same 8 to 16 every week. It's a group of about 45 that are active within turning out. And on any given Thursday, we have 8 to 16 of that 45. So it's not the same people all the time. And what we do is we network people from one to another. We've helped people such as drama clubs and art clubs, musicians, by talking amongst ourselves at our breakfast club. They have been able to find venues to perform, or they've been able to get a connection to a business person and been able to get permission to set up displays. I wish I could think. I usually could have. We've had people that have gone to have joined through us, have learned of and volunteered for the Friends of the Fox, the group of people that help revitalize the Fox Theater and help lead to its renovation, and who help put on shows there. Who now, the Friends of the Fox primarily now does a monthly classic movie at the Bob Hope Fox Theater. And people from the DCC have learned about this and become volunteers at the Fox Theater for them. So that's and then occasionally we're strictly nonpartisan as far as politics go. We're neither Democrat, Republican, or independent. We also don't try to be too controversial, but occasionally we will individually, and then occasionally as a group, collectively make public comments at meetings. And the people learn about these events and to go to these meetings through the Comeback Club. And we also represent ourselves quite a lot at public workshops in downtown Stockton. For example, there's a newer group for the city of Stockton. I want to say it's called Move Downtown is the name of the organization. It's a committee, Jordan Peterson in the Economic Development Department. We worked with him, Tina McCarty, a guy that used to work, a gentleman named I can't think of his first name, Diaz, who was in the Economic Development Department, has now left Stockton. But we coordinated events with him, and we've attended workshops that these people have put on. So, and we're now invited to places. Yesterday, I was at a major event at what is now called the Courthouse Plaza building with the Reinvent South Stockton Coalition. I was one of 17 people through the Comeback Club that received an invitation, and we met for 2 hours with U.S. Representative Josh Harder, talking about issues representing downtown Stockton and San Joaquin County. So because of the Downtown Comeback Club, myself and another person were in this meeting directly one-on-one, but a small group of people speaking one-on-one with U.S. Representative Josh Harder. I'll be at an open house tomorrow night for Assemblywoman Rhodesia Ransom. I also will say that we coordinate through other agencies. I'm a board member of the Central Valley Asian Chamber of Commerce, and I'm always at events with the Chamber of Commerce, the African American Chamber of Commerce, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Stockton Chamber, the Central Valley Asian Chamber. People within the chamber and within the Comeback Club learn of each other's activities through our weekly agenda. A lot of people show up at events because they saw it in our weekly agenda. Even people who don't come to our breakfast will show up at a business mixer somewhere in town because they learned of it through the DCC. By the way, I want to make an important qualification right now. The DCC does not try to compete with the Downtown Stockton Alliance newsletters or the Visit Stockton newsletter. We've been carrying the Visit Stockton newsletter as a copy. It's not interactive. I have now put an advisory note in there. When you see links here, you're seeing like a cut and paste of the
version of it.
We need to coordinate more with the Visit Stockton and coordinate more with the DSA to continue to show some of the information you folks put out in our agenda without trying to duplicate it or compete with it. We're simply trying to provide information.
Definitely, the more information that's out there, the better from all of our organizations, really.
So to summarize what I was trying to say, we have a lot of participation in and around Stockton and San Joaquin County and a lot of diverse events by people who learn about these events through the Downtown Comeback Club who don't even attend our breakfast meetings.
Exactly. Because of your wonderful newsletter. It's true.
I know people are going to say it's a labor of love. I'll go about halfway there. It's a labor of love and a labor of obligation. I created a monster that people now wish to come out every week. It can't be wondered it takes anywhere from 1.5 to 4 hours to produce a newsletter. By the time
I believe that.
And I get a lot of the information you see there is now sent to me. It's just provided to me. People want to get in it.
100%. If someone does have an event that's going on, should they just go ahead and email you if they want the word to get out?
Yes, I'll verbally give my email address, and it's just my personal email, by the way. And we need to talk briefly about the structure of the Comeback Club too. It's official structure, so don't let me forget that. But here's and I guess we can put it in a chat box or something too. But the email is my last name with my first name together, lowercase, @gmail.com. So that's Nate Knodt at gmail.com. And I'll spell that out. KNODTNATE, not Nate, @gmail.com.
Wonderful.
And then they can
so it's right there.
And they can also text me, area code 209-954-8559. In fact, it's easier to get me on a text message than an email. Thanks to the Comeback Club and all the groups that I'm associated with. I'm officially associated with like 8 community groups. I'm on 3 boards of directors officially. I was recently the board chair of the Central Valley Asian Chamber. I get something like 250 emails a day. I have to spend about 10 minutes every hour and a half just clearing my emails. I do try to keep emails all day long.
So can you tell us now, tell us about the structure of the organization. Are you formally a nonprofit, or are you kind of a social club? Tell us about it.
We are formally, unofficially nothing. No, not nothing. No, what we are, we have no official structure per se. We are a name only. We are not a 401, 403C or 401 this, or we're not a nonprofit. We have no official structure. I finally coined the phrase facilitator, because what I basically do is facilitate weekly meetings and disseminate information. I'm loosely in charge of the meetings, and when people go to the meeting, I do chair the meeting. I have the agenda, which we follow some meetings, and some meetings we get off topic. But we have no bank account. We have no funds. We don't solicit funds. Occasionally, and this also happens, by the way, you mentioned what we currently accomplish. A lot of people attend dinners in Stockton and fundraisers because of the Comeback Club. They learn of them through the Comeback Club, and they donate money. But they don't donate it to us. They donate directly to organizations. It is, and sometimes we have guest speakers as often as we can. It's not that easy to get a guest speaker, by the way, between 7:30 and 8:30 in the morning, which is our meeting time.
I can imagine.
They're Thursday mornings. By the way, with a couple of exceptions, they've been Thursday mornings for all 30 years of our existence. That's what was chosen. That seems to be the morning with the least conflicts with other organizations. And the 7:30 to 8:30 time was very specifically chosen. We've tried to alter it twice with no success. That was the best time that people could get there early, but still leave and go to their regular jobs and work or run their businesses. So anyway, we have no structure. We have no bank account. We have no government official sanction of any kind. We don't, what we do occasionally though, when there's a consensus of our group, we do have a letterhead. We do have some stationery that we can drum up. Occasionally we'll send a letter of support for someone who needs, that's another thing we do. We'll send a letter of support for an organization or a grant or a fundraiser. Now we also, as you know, and we talked about this, have attachments with the email. Mm-hmm. Those attachments are sent, most of that's sent to me voluntarily because people want to be publicized with like golf tournaments and fundraising dinners. Tonight, for example, is the Western Farm Workers Association dinner off of Harney Lane and Lodi. That's actually a Stockton organization. The meetings are usually in Stockton. But this year they were specifically asked by a number of people to be a little more upscale, hold it at a kind of a fancier, nicer, bigger venue. And that's not a fundraising dinner, by the way. It's actually an appreciation anniversary dinner. The WFWA also is not an official nonprofit. They have defined themselves as an unincorporated volunteer business organization, I believe is the actual term they use. And I'm an organizing member. And they do have bylaws and a declaration of Constitution. But anyway, so we never asked for people to come to a meeting. We have no membership. Well, we have no membership and no fees and no dues. We have a famous saying. We've even made a decorative poster to talk about this because we say it so much and people love it when we say it. So now it's been visualized by a graphic artist. But this is the official rules of the Stockton Downtown Comeback Club, the DCC. Our meetings are open to everyone, and there are no memberships, no RSVPs, no attendance kept, no fines, fees, dues, songs, or rituals, and no putting money in a toilet seat or a trombone. Now, I want to part the last statement. That's said for humorous purposes. We are not trying to disparage, and we're not even trying to make fun of. We're doing this in jest and good humor, not trying to disparage all the service organizations, such as Lions Club and Rotary and all that, because they do things like that. If you go on a vacation and talk about it, which you're asked to do, then you'll voluntarily be fined, and you're supposed to put money in a little, and it's usually a funny thing that they put money into, like an instrument or a funny vase or something. And that's done in good nature for fundraising. It's all volunteer. But we don't do that at our meetings. We do believe some people may find that maybe intimidating. If you happen to go to one of those meetings and maybe your pockets are empty, it's hard. It's hard to make a donation when you can be on the spot. So our meetings, primarily, we just sit down order breakfast. While we're ordering breakfast, I review the agenda, and then we sometimes get into very serious discussions about agenda items, and we try very hard to list the events at every meeting that are listed in the agenda. I suppose at this point I should explain to you kind of what qualifies to go in the agenda and or to be an attachment. Quite honestly, that's just up to me. I do that as the facilitator, but we've discussed this in meetings. We do have some rules and ground rules for that. To wind up being listed in the Downtown Comeback Club agenda, and especially to have an item, a flyer. And I'm going to show a flyer now to give an example of what I'm talking about here.
Sure.
If you'll bear with me for one moment, I had them all sitting here, I thought.
Definitely.
Well, first of all, the agendas, and this is a black and white version. It's usually in color with red and blue highlights and black. But this is how long it is. It's about
quite long.
Usually. That's about size 11 or 10 font, I might add. I always keep it to 2 pages. If I have too much, I shrink the font. And then people can pull out their magnifying glasses or their spectacles or something. And I will have a flyer in just a moment here.
No worries.
This is one that's going to be in today's agenda. This represents a jazz festival fundraising concert for the Mayfair Christian Church on Swain Road. And that's the type of flyer, that's the type of attachment that will go in the Downtown Comeback Club. It is always a fundraiser. It could be a public workshop like for Move Stockton. Today we'll have a press release in there from the Huddle Co-work, which is graciously offering free space to the Digital Nest, a newly created Downtown Stockton event for which we held a meeting. The Downtown Comeback Club will go on the road sometimes. We held a meeting at the Digital Nest just 3 weeks before they had the tragic fire on Main Street. But we're going to show the press release from Matt Amon and Huddle Co-work that is offering free space, at least in the near future, for Digital Nest to immediately relocate and remain in downtown Stockton while they either seek or purchase a building. Now, so here's the kind of ground rules for being in the Downtown Comeback Club agenda. It generally has to be something that's actually downtown. We don't have an official definition, but we loosely go by downtown as the bordering area of Harding Way North, roughly Pershing I-5 to the west, Pershing Avenue I-5 to the west, and Hagen Museum, largely Wilson Way, the railroad tracks in downtown, and Wilson Way to the east, and largely speaking down to Martin Luther King Boulevard, Charterway on the south. We also will greatly publicize the Miracle Mile. We consider a Miracle Mile an integral extension of downtown and an important part of collaboration with downtown. So if it's a downtown event, it has a great chance of being listed. If it's a very good, legitimate, charitable thing, it's listed. If it's a fundraiser for a good cause, like college scholarships and kidney transplants, we publicized a dinner in Lodi for a volunteer kidney transplant organization, or liver, I forget which at the moment, but very important organ transplant organization, from which 3 people from the DCC were at the event in Lodi and helping raise money and donating money. That will go in there. What we won't usually put in, if it's just a commercial business attempt to advertise some product or something, we won't put that in there. If it's on, say, a commercial business on Hammer Lane in North Stockton, we wouldn't put that in there because they can do that on their own. We're not here to be a free advertising supplement. And, you know, the vast majority of Stockton's commercial and retail existence is north of Harding and even north of March Lane, or on March Lane and north of that, or north of Bianchi. They're already successful. They already have what they have going on, and they're successful business that can afford to budget and advertise on their own. However, if it's an important fundraiser that benefits Stocktonians, San Joaquin County, or students, or disabled people, or it talks about medical care, or something, for example, a really upscale senior living assisted center on Marsh Lane, which I now unfortunately cannot remember the name of, held workshops for seniors to do their taxes and to learn how to apply for Medicare and other various social programs. We might put that in there. Yeah, it's on March Lane, but this is a great voluntary free program to benefit seniors. So hopefully that all made sense. Also, if it's a huge regional event of great benefit to Stockton, San Joaquin County, even the Central Valley, we'll put that in there.
Gotcha. So mostly downtown events, but also charitable events or things for a good cause.
Oh, any downtown business, by the way. We do want to promote downtown businesses. That's one of our main purposes. So yes, we'll put a commercial type of thing in for a downtown business, especially a new established one, an entrepreneurial one. Say Cast Iron Trading Company has a special dinner or something going on. We'll put that in there because they're downtown and we need them to succeed.
100%. So if there are any downtown business owners listening and you're having a special event, send it to Nate. You know, he can share it with his list of 400 people, I think you had shared. So
as of today, 446.
446. There you go. So you kind of outlined already that these are weekly meetings, 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. They're at rotating downtown locations. And you talked a little bit about the fact that there's no fees, no membership obligations really. So can someone just show up or do they need to let you know in advance?
They literally can just walk in the door and show up, which reminds me of another important set of rules we have. You can arrive late and you can leave early, and there's never an obligation to purchase the meal or beverage. You can come to a Downtown Comeback Club meeting in our and we're in a restaurant usually. We'll discuss that, how we choose the locations in a moment. But you are not obligated by the restaurateur or the business we're at to purchase anything from them. You could literally come in at 8:15, sit down for 10 minutes, say hello to everybody, and leave without ordering a meal or a cup of coffee. It costs absolutely no money, and there's no obligation for spending money to come to a Comeback Club meeting. But anybody can just walk in the door at any time, and we're open to everyone.
That's wonderful. That's just amazing because pretty much anyone who's just curious about the organization or what's going on in downtown Stockton or just wants to meet other people who are like-minded and want to know more about revitalization of our city, they can just show up. There are really no barriers at all to being involved. So that's a wonderful thing about the Downtown Comeback Club. Can you talk a little bit about where the meetings are going to be this month and how you choose the locations?
Yes, we're at Ermit, and this will be tomorrow, of course, because tomorrow's a Thursday. By the way, we meet all Thursdays all year round, except for Thanksgiving. And once in a while, July 4th falls on a Thursday. And once in a while, it's always the same year, we lose both Christmas and New Year's, which fall on a Thursday, when that happens. Other than that, we meet all year round no matter what. So what we do, and there is strategy to this. Our primary purpose is to meet in a local, independently owned small business downtown Stockton cafe or restaurant or cafeteria. And right now we are at, for the rest of this month and all of September and October, every Thursday in August, September, and October, we're at Irma's Place at 524 East Weber Avenue, which is halfway between the central of downtown and the railroad tracks where the Ace train station is. We're across the street from the San Joaquin Council of Governments building. We're on Weber Avenue near American Street. We're halfway between, Irma's Place is halfway between California and American Street on Weber Avenue. By the way, our meetings are 7:30 to 8:30. That means all the parking on the street in downtown Stockton is free at that time because the parking meters are not enforced until 9 a.m. And for example, right now, American Street has no parking meters. For anyone who didn't know this, if you want to park free in downtown Stockton, the closest place to do that is on American Street towards the railroad. And it's right there with downtown. You don't have to walk far from there. And also you can park on Hunter Street about where the storage building is. I forget the cross street now. I want to say about where Channel Street is. I think south of Channel on Hunter Street, there's no meters. But the meters are important, and I will defend the city for having them, because if you don't have meters, people will just park their cars all day, and you would never have any rotation of cars, never any places. Of course, we also have great parking garages downtown, which I wish people were more happy about utilizing. They charge $1, I think, every 30 minutes. Well, that's nothing compared to Sacramento or San Francisco or any other urban center. Our parking,
No.
even the paid parking, is relatively cheap. If you do have to use a meter, it's very simple. The meter, you just enter your license. There's 1 meter per block. You walk to it from your car, and all you have to do is put in your license plate number and drop in quarters for 15 minutes, or use your credit card or debit card. And I know I'm doing probably a commercial now for the DSA when I say all this, but I want people to come to our meetings too.
For parking.
Parking is not a problem for our meetings. But to go back to the restaurants, we're at Irma's Place now. We've been at Maria's Cafe on Market Street, pretty close to where the police station, near El Dorado, where the police station is. We've been at I think it's called the Kitchen at the Courthouse. That's inside the Courthouse Plaza building, which for anyone who's never been there, a 3-story building with a dramatic, huge glass atrium ceiling that's 3 stories high with a staircase going up to it, and they've really improved the building, where it now has excellent. It's all completely occupied with little gift shops and restaurants, and we've had our breakfast meetings there multiple times. And we had them at a place called Casa Flores, which was at the corner of Weber and Hunter, across from the new courthouse. They tragically now it's about to reopen as La Doña Taqueria, something like that, and it's about to open. We'll go back there, and we were meeting at a place called the Downtowner, but unfortunately, for tragic reasons, that closed. But those have been, and they're all generally centrally located. Now, we have one exception to the Central Business District. We'll occasionally go to somebody's business or somewhere on the road. We go to the Central State Credit Union, to their bank boardroom occasionally, which is on Center at Acacia Street, because they offer it to us. And we have this beautiful meeting in this huge boardroom with a big, huge business table and swivel chairs and all kinds of high-tech media, because they ask us to. They were part of our regular attendees of the Comeback Club. In fact, almost all of the banks and credit unions in the Stockton area in some way are associated with us or come to our meetings. And anyway, we'll go there. We've gone to places on the Miracle Mile. For example, maybe going to the House of Shaw. We've been to I forget the other location we went to on the Miracle Mile a couple years ago. But the one thing we try to do for the most part is go to independent, small, local restaurants and small businesses. Now, the other exception I was about to get to, and I lost my train of thought for a moment, every winter, and we call it our winter hibernation, and it is a tradition, and a very highly successful tradition. Every winter, at the minimum of December and January, sometimes it creeps into November or February, we spend those months at the University Hotel and Lofts in downtown Stockton, the big high-rise hotel on the waterfront. And there is a reason we do that. When you're dealing with a small local independent cafe or restaurant, occasionally they will have a challenge being open near a holiday. Mm-hmm. We actually had the tragic occurrence a handful of times of showing up maybe the Thursday after or before Thanksgiving, and or the Thursday of a holiday week. It's a 3-day weekend, or maybe there's a Friday holiday, and that restaurant will be closed without warning, even though we leave our.
Oh no!
And so, the University Hotel, being a major hotel, is always open on holidays, and then they treat us like gold there. They set up special tables. They put reserved on there. They've even printed special menus just for the Comeback Club, and even at times offered us discounts from the regular menu. Oh, and by the way, another cafe I should mention we go to is called the Fusion Boba Cafe, mm-hmm. which is behind the new courthouse, next to what's known as Diversity Park, a park that was created by the city of Stockton from a formerly derelict little city block park. And quite honestly, I believe it's partly to deflect from the fact that we don't currently have 100 Square, because they can't have 100 Square until they tear down the old courthouse building. And it's
right. And the Downtown Stockton Alliance, we contributed, we funded a lot of that beautification of that area. You know, it looks really inviting and vibrant and fun, and it's a good celebration of the diversity of our community.
Yeah, it's a beautiful little park. And and they've done a good job of keeping it clean. The city has, and the DSA, because we know the DSA does a lot of cleaning in downtown. Most people don't know that, but you have people out at 5 and 6 in the morning cleaning streets and sidewalks and watering plants and things. By the way, one thing the DCC did at one time, prior to the DSA's existence, we used to advocate for and get artwork to put in window fronts of buildings that were vacant. So they wouldn't be as obviously vacant, and so they'd have a more dramatic visual look on the street. Because the basic, in addition to revitalization of downtown Stockton, what we advocate more than anything is pedestrian traffic on city streets. It's pedestrians walking city streets that give an urban center its vibrant atmosphere, and also creates business for businesses, like little coffee shops and stuff. So anyway, so we have Fusion Boba Cafe, Maria's, we have Irma's Place, and I know I'm forgetting one that we probably go to on a regular basis. And we have the La Doña about to open, which we assume will take us on. In the past, we went to El Zarape, and we've been to the, like I say, the various different cafes and restaurants in the Courthouse Plaza building, including the coffee shop that's actually in the atrium lobby. We just met in the lobby putting tables together. So that's, and again, it's chosen as primarily to have independent small businesses. One thing, going back real quickly before I forget, we don't just advertise, we don't just put attachments in about events. We also, whenever possible or vibrantly active or useful to have, we put data into the Downtown Comeback Club agenda. For example, this is the Port of Stockton flyer from their annual business statistics for a particular year. And that will be, and sometimes they're two-sided. If they're two-sided, we'll scan both sides, and the file will be a two-sided file. Another thing we produced, by the way, we've had anniversary events. We had a 20th anniversary at what was called Red Orchid Cafe on Market Street when it existed, and we had one at the Downtowner on Sutter Street when it existed. Those events, we did sell tickets in advance, and we sold those out at over 200 people per each event. We still let people walk in, though. If they didn't have a ticket, we let them walk in. They might have to stand and drink their coffee or maybe nowhere to sit. And we had major people show up at those events. At the 20th anniversary event at Red Orchid, which was in, 20th anniversary from 1990. That was in 2015. That was actually the last time that former developer Dan Court, who founded the club, and his son, Zach Court, who once had the 10 space development at Downtown Stockton, was the last time they publicly were together in an event. We happened to be at the Downtown Comeback Club anniversary event. We also had the 25th, we called it the quarter century celebration because COVID took away the actual anniversary of 2020. And we held it in 2021. And for that, and I'm still planning to work on this and get this published through The Right Place in downtown Stockton. The Right Place is in the Court Tower, and it's a voluntary organization, nonprofit, that teaches people literacy and publishing. For the 25th quarter century celebration event, in fact, I've given you guys a copy, but I need to give you another one so you make sure you have it. We created a booklet that highlights the greatest events in downtown Stockton over the 25-year history of the
that's wonderful. A beautiful timeline.
Yeah, and yet it goes from 1996 all the way down through multiple pages, all the way to it was 2022 actually when we held the event instead of 2020. And each one
wonderful.
And sometimes there's multiple things per year, but there's a photograph with a caption of what it was, like the opening of the Stockton Ballpark or the rejuvenation of the Fox Theater into the Bob Hope Theater. Those are the kind of things in here.
Very fun. So this is your 30th year? Are you planning a celebration? Or have you already held one?
We haven't gotten to the work of it yet, but we'll have a celebration probably sometime next spring. We're actually 30 years old now, but we usually hold the celebration in March or April of the following year. Since we're an all-volunteer group, we have to actually get our heads together and volunteer enough work to actually make it happen. And that's
put it on.
And we do usually pre-sell that event, because we usually do order a major breakfast and we have champagne and sparkling water and all that kind of stuff at that event, and cake. We had a spectacular cake at the quarter century celebration where someone actually recreated the steamboat logo, logo on the top of the cake. and we took photographs of course. And I wound up with the cake, and I couldn't bear to cut into. I don't think we ate half the cake.
It's too beautiful. So can you tell us now, what motivates you to continue facilitating the Downtown Comeback Club for all this time?
Well, I'm going to give you two answers, including one that's on the little worksheet that we haven't gotten to. My memories of downtown Stockton is part of it. So I'm unfortunately very old. I'm a senior citizen, Medicare and all that stuff, Social Security. I have fond memories of downtown Stockton dating back to about 1960. So that would be 65 years ago. One of my first memories of my life is being at the corner of Main and San Joaquin Street at the old historic Bank of Stockton building, watching a Salvation Army woman ring her bell at Christmas. That's one of the first memories of my life, downtown Stockton. On Weber Avenue, we went to the Moeller Barber College. Now, you may not remember that. That actually existed until about 10 years ago. It was a barbershop college. And then it changed names a couple times, and it finally closed 7 or 8 years ago. Now it's a gift shop, a clothing store that's partially open once in a while. But that barber college taught a lot of the current really successful barbers and hairdressers and salon people, and a lot of the Southeast Asian, Vietnamese, Cambodian, and Tao and Lai people who cut people's hair today went through Moeller Barber College on Weber Avenue in downtown Stockton, near the corner of Weber and California, and Sutter. I remember going to Pacific basketball games at the Civic Auditorium, which one of your things was my favorite building in Stockton, the Civic Memorial Auditorium, which is 100 years old now, by the way, 1925.
Yes. This year.
Pacific played basketball games there, and that was spectacular because if you've ever been inside of it, it's mostly a semicircular upper deck. Pacific crammed a basketball court on there, had risers with metal chairs for box seats on the ground level, and then the balcony is only 9 feet off the ground. And it used to cram its official seating capacity, 2,900. Pacific used to cram 3,250 people in there for a basketball game. They put bleachers on the stage. They crammed the Pacific Pep Band into some corner, but they had the stage, they had seats on the ground, and it was so tight to the court, and this is the only time I've seen it in my life, there was a black dotted line on the court, 1 foot from the inbounds line. And during a basketball game, the players inbounded between the solid out of bounds and the dotted line that was on the court. And that's how tight and that's how close the fans were to the basketball game.
Wow.
For a 10-year reign under a great coach named Dick Edwards, and when Pacific was actually a national power in the 60s, they went 192-34 at the Civic Auditorium. And they had a 6-year stretch of selling out every game at 3,250. Now, today's Spanish Center, which is great, seats about 6,000. And they've had many times in the past, they got 5,000 and 6,000. Pacific, until COVID, Pacific averaged about 3,000 a game, which, believe it or not, is one of the better attendance records for a college, especially a private college on the West Coast that isn't a huge college like UCLA or something. In fact, Pacific used to outdraw average attendance that drew better than USC in Los Angeles.
Wow.
But anyway, so Civic Auditorium, my favorite building. The Fox Bob Hope Theater is right there. I love the original skyscraper of downtown Stockton is the old historic Bank of Stockton building at the corner of San Joaquin and Main. And across the street is the California building, the second one. And there was a Livingston's bridal store there for many years in what is now the lobby for, I forgot now the name, Intuit.
Verve Network, I think.
Yes, Vivid. Yeah. What that is a beautiful lobby, tile and marble lobby that was once a bridal shop. That was one of downtown Stockton's last vibrant businesses, along with Tabucci's and Rosenthal department stores, which I shopped at. So anyway, I have all these great memories of downtown. I remember what it was. I remember going downtown to shop on Market and Main Street and Weber Avenue. We went banking on Weber Avenue, got my haircuts at the Moeller Barber College. This is all when I'm 6, 7, 8 years old. To me, downtown Stockton was the greatest place I ever saw. So I moved back here in the late 1980s and 1990s after living all over Nevada, living in Las Vegas, San Francisco, Hollywood, I worked in downtown Los Angeles at Union Station. I lived near Sacramento. I came back to Stockton as it was on its last downward trend and slope, which was the early 90s. We were just losing We were just losing Newberry's and SH Crest and several other department stores. And I said, I can't accept that. People have to do something to help bring this back. So there's my interest in the Downtown Comeback Club. Now, I know we'll never get the big retail back. Even malls and shopping centers are struggling because of online sales, and people generally want to go to a big air-conditioned mall. But what is possible in a downtown urban area, and what makes it the strongest, is to bring in small, independent, local entrepreneurial businesses operated by young people. And that's what I do see coming back. It was coming back and making some progress when COVID hit, and it wiped almost all of it out. And now I think we're kind of back on that upward trend again, but now we're probably 3 years away from, we haven't quite hit critical mass yet. And we got the new housing places, which are great. The best things are happening in Grandview Village on the corner of Minor and San Joaquin, where the traffic circle is. And the traffic circle has the brass fountain, what used to be the brass fountain in Hunter Square, where the new courthouse is now. And that was a brilliant way to save that. People who attended Comeback Club meetings were part of the people who founded Save Our Stockton, it was called SOS, who salvaged that fountain from being scrapped. They raised money to make a sundial at the Martin Luther King Park at Chavez Library. They couldn't accomplish that, but they saved the fountain, and the City of Stockton Public Works came up with a great idea of making it the cornerstone of that beautiful traffic circle, now at the corner of San Joaquin and Minor Avenue. And then now we have the Grandview Village there, which I was an early business partner with through RTD. RTD helped promise to develop transit routes and bus stops in downtown that help visionary home builders with Carol Ornelas qualify for some of the state loans and funding to build Grandview Village. And the most exciting thing is most people don't know this yet because we haven't hit critical mass yet, but to have a successful downtown, people have to live there. And some of them have to live there at market rate. It can't all be poor people. And I mean that in the most respectful manner, by the way. But it can't just all be fixed income or low income or seniors. But we have the Cal Weber on Weber Avenue, which is Irma's place is in that. The Cal Weber 40 building at California and Weber. We have the Medici Lofts, which is on Sutter Street near Minor Avenue. By the way, one of my great memories, that used to be the medical dental building. And it literally was full of doctors and dentists and lawyers. It was the best business office address in Stockton. I was one of the people who went to a doctor there. I went to the doctor on the 12th floor. And I'm so old that when I went to the medical dental building, it still had manually operated elevators. They used to control a lever going up and down and open a cage to let you in and out. So anyway, that's now full of artist lofts, which are affordable, and some newer family units they built next to it. And then now we have the Grandview Village. There's Liberty Square, a little bit north of Minor Avenue, but between Hunter and San Joaquin. I forget the cross street now, but Flora or something like that. So anyway, I'll stop there and let you come back with more questions.
You're right. There's a lot more housing developments that have happened in the last few years. Also, the Tretheway lofts, the Cowmain lofts, and that's really what we're hoping to see more of is more people living in downtown.
Yes, and the Tretheway, I think it's market rate, and it's the old Argonaut Hotel, and there's also the Main Street lofts at 600 East Main Street.
100%. So it's happening. We can see there are more people living here. So that means the businesses hopefully are getting a little bit more support because there's people here 24/7 rather than just the 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 workers. So it's really exciting to see. And I'm curious, in your opinion, what has been the single biggest contributor to downtown's revitalization so far? And where would you like to see downtown in the next 5 years?
That's a great question. I do believe that we generated through the Comeback Club in its early days before the DSA, and then in combination with DSA, I think we helped create a lot of the groundswell of support that basically almost forced and obligated the City of Stockton government to put in the new ballpark and the arena downtown. Now, yes, that was subsidized by taxes. Yes, that was a contributing factor to our debt and our bankruptcy. But I will argue with anyone about downtown before and after the ballpark and the arena. What was there before was an empty auto body warehouse and an ugly, awful skyscraper of a building that was empty. That's what was there before the ballpark and the arena. Then people forget that those two things being created brought in the private investment of the University Hotel. People don't understand the University Hotel was privately funded, and in 2005 dollars, that's 20 years ago, it was a $59 million building. That happened because there would be no University Hotel without the ballpark and the arena. And the waterfront warehouse is a great development that's also benefited at times from the existence of the arena and the ballpark. People will go to Dennis, and for example, now, and maybe have a dinner or cocktail before they head over to the ball game for like a Stockton Kings game. Unfortunately, we gained and lost hockey. That's probably a whole subject for another show right there, which I could be a part of. I know a lot about that. I've been a season ticket holder at every basic sporting activity in Stockton, by the way.
Yeah, we love the Ports. We love the Kings.
So you were asking me what the biggest things that have happened to revitalize Stockton. Was that the question? So you got the Stockton and the hotel. The hotel's a big deal because that's an ongoing everyday business, and it adds beautifully. The ballpark, the arena, and the arena is beautiful. That's a world-class arena as far as how it looks architecturally from the outside and everything, and it's a really good arena inside. It's 10,000 seats too, which most people don't know. And then the University Hotel is a beautiful, dramatic thing on our skyline, which you can see from both I-5 and the Crosstown Freeway. And the new courthouse is very dramatic. I was coming home from the Bay Area the other day, and we took the old Altamont Pass Road, and we came in by way of Discovery Bay on Highway 4. You can see the new county courthouse all the way from Discovery Bay, that's sticking up in the, and therefore, so therefore Stockton's visual from 20, 30 miles away because of the new county courthouse. The other thing that's been a big deal, and I do believe the Comeback Club had a lot to do with this, and a lot of our people have patronized these businesses to support them, and we've supported them, and so have people like the Greater Stockton Chamber, African American Chamber, and the Asian Chamber, and the Hispanic Chamber with mixers. We have had 2 different bars that have been opened downtown. You cannot, in my opinion, I'm not advocating for mass drinking here or alcohol use, but you have to have legitimate restaurants, lounges, and pubs to have an active urban center. You have to have that. That's also the basis for live entertainment. Well, thanks to the DSA and the Comeback Club, you had the Deliberation Room on California Street, which was very successful. Unfortunately, it was put out of business by COVID. And despite demand for it, the person who was a lawyer decided his business grew so much during COVID, he decided to rededicate himself to his lawyer business and has not successfully been able to release it or sell it to another entity. But we also gained the Fed on downtown Stockton at Hunter and Minor Avenue next to the former Casa Flores, soon to be Ladonia, across Hunter Street from the historic Hotel Stockton. By the way, the Hotel Stockton, that's one of the big, I forgot to mention that. That is one of the greatest things that ever happened to downtown Stockton, was saving that historic, beautiful Gothic mission-style hotel. And it was empty for 8 years. It had been an HSA building before that, but very underutilized and very downtrodden because of that. But now being a live-in senior citizens center with the rooftop garden on top, which eventually I think is going to be very active and open all the time, and the potential for a high-end restaurant downstairs, which has not quite been successful yet, but I believe will be. The Fed, you have to have a good, legitimate, modern, attractive, trendy place for people to go, and the Fed matches that right now, along with Cast Iron Trading Company. And at times, we've had a lot of live music at those 2 events. That comes and goes. Yes. We had that going until COVID, and it's just about on the verge of reappearing, I believe. But the problem downtown Stockton has truly getting off the ground is we're one of the big, most spread out, smaller downtowns that exist. We have 3 different downtowns that are all about half a mile apart, which is just enough to discourage some walking and parking, especially on hot days or cold days. But you have the waterfront warehouse area, along with SUSD headquarters and DMV. Is the waterfront's one area. Across the waterfront, but separated by the water, forcing a fairly long walk, and most people actually drive it. Separated by the water, then you have the University Hotel ballpark and the arena. But then there, about a half a mile away from the central business district, starting at El Dorado and Center Street and Weber Avenue, where you have the new courthouse, the old courthouse, and you have some of our wonderful little restaurants and businesses such as the Fed. So the fact, if they were scrunched closer together without barriers to pedestrian use, we'd probably have a more vibrant downtown right now. We actually have to develop 3 different downtowns simultaneously.
Quite a task, quite a task. And to your point, the Fed, yes, I know they're doing now Fed Fridays. They were doing First Fridays, I think, as well. They're doing Latin nights on Saturdays. So they are contributing to the nightlife. And we also have Lavaca nightclub. They've been putting a lot of events on. So we're getting a lot of energy into downtown again. And it's really great to see.
Right.
So I know we're coming up towards the end of our time. So I want to ask, what do you love about downtown Stockton? That's my first question. And then the next question is, usually I ask people about their favorite lunch spots, but since you've been to all of the breakfast spots in downtown, I'm going to ask you to name some of your favorites and what dish you think people just have to order.
Okay. Give me the first part of the question again.
Okay. So first question is, what do you love about downtown Stockton?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I love the historic nature of it and the great architecture of the older buildings. Stocktonians don't know this. Stocktonians take it for granted. They basically think of downtown as kind of a slightly dead area that isn't worth their time. Outside people who come to Stockton are astonished at the beautiful facades of our buildings, most of our buildings, that exist on Weber Avenue, Market and Main Street, and California and Sutter Streets, and Hunter Street. And they're always astonished we aren't actually more actively involved as a downtown with more pedestrians. By the way, one of the reasons I dedicated myself to Comeback Club is not only to revitalize Stockton in general, but revitalize its current image with Stocktonians, especially those who don't venture south from the north area. We can try to break that artificial barrier of people coming south of Harding. So getting back to, that's the quick answer there. So I love the architecture. By the way, except for a few instances, we still have buildings on California, Sutter, Weber, Minor, and Market. The buildings are all together without empty lots between. Sadly, with the recent fire on Main Street, and sadly with the destruction of a building on Weber Avenue, we have a couple gaps in there. But what makes an urban downtown great is when the buildings completely flow together on either side of a street, creating an architectural unity. So we have historic ancient buildings. I shouldn't say ancient, historic, very old buildings that are very beautiful, like the Elks building at the corner of Sutter and Weber Avenue. And then we have some new buildings like the Council of Governments, the Downtown Transit Center, which is one of the first in the nation when it was built and opened in 2006 and 2007. So as far as breakfast goes, if I had to, I love them all. Probably the one I've frequented the most before I was retired, and we probably have the most meetings there on a given year, is Irma's Place. And my favorite breakfast is diced ham and scrambled eggs. Now, I also get that at Maria's. At Irma's, I usually get it with hash browns and toast. At Maria's, I usually get the Mexican version, which is tortillas and beans. By the way, this place serves terrific breakfast burritos. People love breakfast burritos, including the Comeback Club. I prefer an old-fashioned traditional multi-course meal on a plate.
100%. We have so many breakfast burrito options in downtown, so hopefully you'll get to try them if you come to some of the Comeback Club meetings. That would be lovely.
Before I forget, it's not one of your questions, but I really want to state this very clearly.
Yeah.
Because of my interest in the Comeback Club, I've collected a lot of things. I've now created one of the greatest archives of downtown Stockton. And so much so, I've been talking to the Hagen Museum. So if I get run over by a runaway robo-taxi or something in the near future, maybe some of my stuff will be used. But for example, San Joaquin RTDs, Downtown Transit Center made the national cover of a national transit magazine in 2007. And there's one of our Metro Express buses, which now has a newer paint scheme, but those were one of the first bus rapid transit routes in the United States. That route for many years has been nationally ranked in ridership. In terms of average passengers per hour, right there with the East Coast and major metropolitan areas like New York and Chicago. I have historic railroad timetables. This is a 1971 Santa Fe Railroad timetable, just months before Amtrak took over all passenger service. There's our current Union.
Well, that's cool.
I have the Western Pacific, Southern Pacific, Santa Fe, and Union Pacific timetables. I also have the Central California Traction Company, which used to run electric trains up Weber Avenue to a terminal at the Stockton Hotel where the restaurant is now. Part of that used to be a train station for people going to Lodi and Sacramento and to Escalon and Modesto. And so I have tub after tub after tub of historic artifacts of downtown Stockton. I have the original stories about the greenhouse when it was created, which is now the Courthouse Plaza. I have historic newspaper articles about the Yosemite Street Village, which I live near, Acacia, Yosemite, and Victory Park, and Dameron Hospital. I have newspaper articles talking about the Yosemite Street Village in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, advertising the business that were there at that time. So I have and I wanted to mention, because of that, occasionally, representing the Downtown Stockton Comeback Club, I will go to an event in Stockton and set up a whole table full of the archives of downtown Stockton and display them. I've done that, for example, at the Bob Hope Classic Movies in the lobby there, and other big events held at the Courthouse Plaza building.
Very cool. You know, a lot of people on Facebook especially, they're very interested in the history of Stockton, you know, historical artifacts. So that's cool to know you have this collection. You know, if we ever do get a downtown historical museum, which would be amazing, hopefully some of those artifacts would make their way into it, you know, to be on display to the public.
Well, you know, we're going to have a maritime museum eventually downtown with the USS Lucid, which we also are going to have those people speak to the Comeback Club in the not too distant future. We do get guest people like Mayor Podesto spoke to us. Christina Fugazi's been there multiple times as a candidate and as an elected person. District Attorney Ron Freitas, I think his first appearance as a candidate was the Downtown Comeback Club. So we also have a lot of candidates during election season. One of your questions we haven't talked about is how many business owners. Sadly, we don't have a lot of business owners who regularly attend our meetings, but part of that's because they're busy prepping for their business.
Yeah.
When you're a single or family entrepreneur, regardless of the hours, you need the mornings usually to set up your business. So we have a lot of professional people that attend our meetings, like architects and government workers and planners and financial people and real estate people. Those are the people who often attend our meetings on a regular basis. Custodial people, but a lot of entrepreneur people and younger people. And I shouldn't say younger. We want more younger people. Artists, a lot of artists and authors wind up, and photographers come to Comeback Club meetings.
It's a wonderful array of, you know, interested citizens, people who want to be involved, who are curious about the community. Can you kind of share with us why someone would want to come to the Downtown Stockton Comeback Club, what they would get out of it? You know, give us your best sales pitch for anyone listening so that they can come to your next meeting. One,
they get a good breakfast if they choose to order breakfast. Most of our places are traditional sit down, which itself is rare now. It's not fast food. It's not a drive-through. Two, we have great conversation, and we will talk about controversial issues too, like the city manager situation going on with our city government. We will talk about that. One thing that's happened a lot is people use the Comeback Club to find out about the availability of buildings and spaces in downtown Stockton. They actually come to us, and then we refer them to people like Mahala Burns and the DSA for more information. So we give a lot of referrals through the Comeback Club. They see the agenda email. They may only come once or twice. They come to the meeting, and they drill us with questions about downtown Stockton. Three, they find out about events they did not know about. Again, a lot of people attend our breakfast meetings, then wind up at an event the next day or two or next week, such as a public workshop, say at the San Joaquin Council of Governments, to talk about downtown housing or transportation or infrastructure. But they're there because they learned through us by attending a meeting. And,
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Great benefits. And I've been to a handful of meetings. Oh, yes.
That many of them haven't been downtown in 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 years, and they're shocked at some of the good things they see.
Change.
Like the water fountains and the county courthouse building and various other things. And also, we, the Comeback Club, have been given exclusive premier tours of things like the Main Street lofts and the Trethaway lofts. When these things were first opening, we were among the first people to tour them.
Yeah, it's very cool. I've been to a handful of your meetings. I definitely could go to more. Again, the timing though, 7:30 can be tough, but I have been to a handful of meetings, and it's really interesting to see who's there because it's people who are, maybe they're a part of the Asian Chamber, maybe they're just a curious citizen. To your point, maybe there's like a landscape designer or an architect. And they all have a different background or skill set, but they're all really curious about downtown Stockton and how it can be improved and what's going on. I think I was at the meeting where we went to the 500 main lofts, kind of when they had just been completed. So that was a really nice tour. We got to see the inside of those. So if anyone is looking for a community organization where there's really low commitment, you can drop in when you want to. You can learn a lot of information. And as you can see from what Nate's been sharing today, he's very knowledgeable about the community. You have a lot of history here, Nate, and you have a heart for downtown. So definitely come to the Downtown Comeback Club. Check it out. Tomorrow's the next meeting. And how can people get in touch with you if they have questions about what you've been chatting about today?
Well, mainly through my email and my phone, my cell phone, through a text message. Oh, good, you have it there for Irma's place. I couldn't multitask, talk, manage the computer, and type in a chat with my email, but I don't have the opportunity to put my email on my text phone. There it is. And you can go ahead and put for the sake of a text message, put my phone number up there too.
Perfect.
I've been lucky not to get too many crank calls over the years. So yeah, that
is lucky.
Just send me a simple email. What I do need people to do when they send me a text or an email is please identify themselves. Often people will jump the gun and they'll send you a message, but they don't exactly identify who they are or why they're talking to you. I want to know the difference between somebody who wants to buy my home or wants to attend the Downtown Comeback Club meeting. Maybe who they are. It's always nice to hear how they heard about us. One thing we do not have, there's something very important to say. We've talked about this strategically, and we're not going to do it. We are an in-person meeting. We are not going, at least in the foreseeable future, it may change 5-10 years down the road. We don't stream meetings. We don't go online. We want people to be in touch personally, and we don't want to modify the meetings for an invisible audience. We don't want to be playing to an audience in a computer instead of just talking with one another. Definitely.
It's like a very interactive club. Very interactive experience.
And another thing I should point out,
build those connections.
And one other important point to make, which I sort of touched upon earlier, about our so-called strict rules and regulations, which is that you can come in late, leave early, and don't have to buy anything, and we're open to everybody, and there's no RSVPs. Also, people can come to our meeting knowing they're not going to be asked to donate money or to volunteer time. Mm-hmm. Most of the time when you go to and I mean this in the nicest sort of way, but most of the time when you go to a nonprofit group, even a chamber mixer or any other such public workshop, almost invariably at some point, there's a pitch to obligate someone to volunteer time, effort, or make a financial donation. We don't do that. You can simply come, have breakfast or not have breakfast, and just listen to us discuss information. And most of the people who come to the meetings make good friends with the people who are there.
Exactly. It's a wonderful networking opportunity. Get to know your neighbors, get to know people who have similar interests as you. So, all right, Nate, thank you for answering all of my questions. I will now go ahead and open it up for viewer questions. So let's see if we've got any here. All right, audience questions and comments. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Fire away.
Okay.
Hopefully I can hear. I'm a senior citizen with hearing aids.
Okay. Let's see. All right, this is a comment from Johnny Palacios. He says, "Hi Nate, you have always been an advocate for our downtown. Thank you for that. It's always nice running into you."
I'm glad somebody likes running into me.
I think plenty of us enjoy running into you, Nate. Thank you, Johnny. Okay, this is from Jay Schroeder. He says, "Thanks for the interesting program." Oh, and that's my guest from, I believe, last month. So hi, Jack. All right. Johnny has a comment on Facebook. "Visionary Home Builders is starting to build new homes on Minor and American streets. They call it La Passeggiata." Oh, yes, that's that new, they just had a ribbon cutting for this new project. So it's an exciting thing, you know. We also had a ribbon cutting recently for the channel improvement project, and you were there, Nate. So that's another really, really cool project that's coming up in downtown.
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed the Visionary Home Builders ribbon cutting, and this is the first time I saw the name La Passeggiata. I know I'm not saying it right, but that's very exciting because Minor Avenue. Then we'll have two beautiful housing areas on each end of bookending Minor Avenue, leading to more development within.
100%. Thank you, Johnny, for mentioning that. Okay, and I've got one comment here on YouTube from Andy Nguyen. He says, "Thank you for sharing your knowledge about the Downtown Comeback Club." All right, thank you, Andy. I don't see any other questions at the moment. So I do want to just remind everyone that this video has been streaming live to YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, where we are at Downtown Stockton. And if you can, like, subscribe, and share this video with people who you think might be interested in what's going on in Downtown Stockton, people who might want to join the Comeback Club and come to the Thursday morning meetings with Nate. So I want to say thank you to you, Nate, for your time today and for your dedication to the Downtown Stockton community. You've been a part of this club for so long, and it's volunteer, which is just amazing that you're willing to give your time to kind of advocating for downtown. So we really appreciate you and the work that you've been doing this entire time. And thank you for mentioning some of the things that are on our minds here in downtown. Parking, you talked about that earlier. You're right. It's really, it is easy to park in downtown. The parking is not too expensive, but that is a common complaint that we do receive from citizens who maybe are used to just parking in parking lots, with a major store or something like that. But if you come down here, you will find that we have many parking garages available. And thank you also for mentioning about the Bob Hope Theater. It would be so neat to see some kind of maybe a wine bar or some kind of brewery down there by the Bob Hope Theater, to activate that block. So, I think we're aligned on a lot of our ideas for downtown. And I just want to say thank you so much for the work that you're doing, Nate, and your time today.
Yeah, and one last stat I should leave you with. A year ago, I calculated this, and I forgot to look it up for this meeting. We've had approximately 2,000 meetings on the Thursday morning breakfast, and I've facilitated approximately, I think, 1,100 of them, or something like that. I'll eventually get the exact numbers and send them to you.
Wow, see, that's just total dedication to a cause, and no compensation. So again, thank you for your support, Nate.
And I've lost money on the Comeback Club. I certainly haven't made any money. I've lost a lot of money on the Comeback Club.
Oh no, you've invested. You're an investor in downtown. You're an investor. Well, thank you, viewers, for tuning in. I hope you learned a lot about the Comeback Club and a little bit about Downtown Stockton. And thank you, Nate, for your time. And do you have anything you'd like to say before we close out?
Well, one thing I should also clarify real briefly, we are nonpartisan as a group, and we will not publicly advocate for a particular political party but we do allow candidates. I want to make sure people understand. We allow candidates and legitimate candidates, registered candidates, and people of all persuasions, parties, and viewpoints to speak to our club. And then we will respond with questions and grill people. One of the things we try to do is get elected leaders. One of the things we try to do, which I forgot to mention, we try to get elected leaders to come to our meetings, make presentations about policy and what's going on, and then we grill them with questions, try to hold them accountable. But we have while we are nonpartisan as a club, we will have very vigorous discussions about homelessness and political policy and things like that. But the group is as a whole is nonpartisan, but we welcome all viewpoints.
Great point. So everyone's welcome, and you can engage in very interesting debates. Sounds like a fun part of the club. All right, with that, I will just say, I hope that everyone has a great day. Have a great day, downtown. Thank you.
Thank you.